Democrats have launched an impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump after accusing him of violating the U.S. Constitution, plunging a deeply divided nation into yet another clash between Congress and the commander-in-chief. The U.S. president accused Democrats of another political witch hunt, summing up his view of the probe in an all-caps tweet. The Democrats' course of action has thrown up a number of questions, adding to the uncertainty already hanging over the 2020 election campaign. And tests anew the nation's constitutional system of checks and balances. What is impeachment, and has it happened before? Impeachment is the process of removing a government official, in this case Donald Trump, the U.S. president, from office. To trigger the process, an inquiry looks at whether the official's conduct falls under treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, as stated 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Where things get tricky is the Constitution does not define high crimes and misdemeanors, so Congress must decide for itself what constitutes an impeachable offense. However, it is generally understood to mean a violation of an oath of office, rather than necessarily breaking the law. Only 3 presidents have faced an impeachment inquiry: Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Bill Clinton. In 1868, Mr. Johnson was impeached by the House on charges relating to violating the Tenure of Office Act, over his firing of his Secretary of War, but he was acquitted in the Senate. After the 1974 Watergate scandal, a House committee approved articles of impeachment against Mr. Nixon, but he resigned before the full House held a vote. Mr. Clinton was impeached by the House in 1998 on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice relating to a sexual harassment case against him, but was then acquitted in the Senate. No president has ever been formally removed by the Senate. What is the Ukraine scandal at the heart of the inquiry? At the heart of the issue is whether Mr. Trump held back aid to Ukraine in a bid to pressure the country to investigate his political rival Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Mr. Biden, the former U.S. Vice President, is currently the Democratic front-runner in the race to challenge Mr. Trump for the White House in 2020. The trigger for the impeachment investigation was a phone call between Mr. Trump and the newly elected president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Concerns about the phone call were first revealed after a whistleblower filed a complaint accusing the president of abusing his power in order to interfere in the 2020 election. The whistleblower, a CIA officer previously assigned to the White House, said several officials had raised concerns about Mr. Trump's conversation with Mr. Zelensky. In response, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced in late September that the chamber would open a formal impeachment proceeding to investigate the claims. A day after the impeachment investigation began, the White House released a redacted version of the phone call which revealed that Mr. Trump had indeed urged Mr. Zelensky to do him a favor and investigate the Bidens. Overshadowing the request was the fact that it came days after Mr. Trump held back almost $400 million in military aid that Congress had approved for Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. Mr. Trump has insisted he did nothing wrong in calling for the investigation, saying there was no quid pro quo in his dealings with Ukraine.